We just heard a good example of pay disparity when addressing job opportunities in the field of science, technology, engineering, and math as it relates to women in the workforce. What are your views on the... Okay. What are your views on the best way to address workplace inequality and pay disparities between men and women in all aspects of our working society?
Well, thank you. I'm Ken Timmerman. I'm the Republican candidate for Congress in the 8th District, and I want to thank you and the Frederick County Commission for Women for sponsoring this forum. I want to thank Senator Cardin and the other candidates who are here for the respect that you show the people of Frederick County for coming out here personally to let the people hear what we have to say and what our views are. Christina and I have 5 children. 2 of them are daughters. And obviously, as a father, I want to see that my children and my daughters have equal pay, that they are respected on the workplace, that there's no discrimination because of their gender or their background at the workplace. Certainly. But this is not enough. Dan mentioned education. I would like to mention jobs, because right now we're in a state in this economy where we have 23 million unemployed people. My 23-year-old daughter, who just graduated with a master's degree, is one of them. So she has come home, like a lot of college-age kids, and is now living with her parents looking for a job. And she knows that the job universe out there is completely stagnant. My opponent and the administration are very happy and are claiming a great victory because last month the unemployment rate went down to 7.8%. It dipped below 8%. Well, guess what? That's exactly where it stood the day that Barack Obama took office in January of 2009. 3.5 years later, we're back to where we started, folks. $5.5 trillion of deficit spending, and we're back to where we started. I think that's a disgrace. I have a plan at TimmermanForCongress.com, a 10-point plan to get our economy going again, to create millions of jobs. I'd like to see us get off imported oil. I'd like to see consumers have a choice when you go to the pump between buying gasoline at $3.80 a gallon from imported Saudi oil or going to the next pump and being able to buy U.S.-produced methanol from Pennsylvania natural gas at $2.20 a gallon. We can create millions of jobs, enhance our national security, and get this economy moving. That is the best thing that we can do for our children and for the women in this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Parsons here for Representative Van Hollen.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation to be here today. I appreciate being able to join you. Congressman Van Hollen is at a memorial service, and so asked me to come as a volunteer for the Van Hollen campaign. The question related to the pay equity. Let me just, to the general point, because this is very important. You've obviously heard everyone on this stage is for pay equity, and thank God we're in the 21st century. Okay, the issue is when the laws, as a practical matter, don't enable pay equity to be realized for every woman in the workplace. In the case of the Lilly Ledbetter case, the Supreme Court had said that yes, pay equity was the lay of the land, but because she didn't file a complaint in time, she had a very short window of time within which to file a complaint, okay? And by the way, during that window that the court said that she had to file her complaint, she had no idea the pay inequity was going on. Okay? So we can agree on pay equity as a principle, but if the laws are being construed in a way that doesn't allow a woman like Letty Ledbetter to actually get pay equity in her life and the life of similarly situated women at the Goodyear tire plant in Alabama, then that's something that Congress, well, you actually have a choice. Congress can actually step up and try to rectify that so we make reality, pay equity a reality, or we can sit on our hands. We actually stepped up to rectify that. Congressman Van Hollen supported the Lilly Ledbetter Act. Most of our colleagues in the Republican caucus in the House did not. As regards STEM education, you're probably going to hear from everyone on the stage an agreement around the importance of equal opportunity. Okay, and that's fine as far as it goes. I will tell you that if we go down the path of the Ryan budget and we starve discretionary domestic spending the way that budget envisions, you can say bye-bye to STEM education and the opportunity it provides. Okay, lastly, because of the gridlock, because of the Tea Party wing of the Republican caucus in the House, a bipartisan Violence Against Women's Act, this used to be non-controversial legislation, is not coming to the floor of the House. because it's being blocked by the House leadership. You all decide whether or not you think that's appropriate. We'd rather be voting on a Violence Against Women's Act.
Mr. Parsons. All right, so the next question is the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, otherwise referred to as the Affordable Care Act, was signed into law on March 23, 2010 by President Obama. Please share your position regarding the impact this law is having or will have on women and children. And we'll start with Mr. Parsons on behalf or representing Representative Van Hollen.
Sure. Congressman Van Hollen was a strong supporter of the health care reform law. A meaningful number of the additional 30 million Americans who are going to get access to affordable insurance coverage are going to be women and their kids and their families writ large. The provisions that are already in effect are already helping people across the country and Marylanders the ability to have your child stay on your insurance policy up until 26 years of age. The ability for a child or a family member to get coverage irrespective of a pre-existing condition. My son happens to have type 1 diabetes. That would be a real problem for him a generation ago. Because of the health care reform law, it will not be. Because of the improvements made to the Medicare program, seniors are going to get, they're going to fill in the donut hole on prescription drugs, and we're going to have free preventative services for mammograms and colonoscopies and the like. This is pro-family legislation. This is good for women and children and the families that they're part of. He's a supporter of the legislation, and I think when the health exchanges come to pass in 2014, you're going to see prices go down, particularly in the individual and small group market, where people typically have had the most trouble finding access to affordable care. This is like, for those who aren't familiar with an exchange, it's like a group plan, right? When you're an individual out there fending for yourself, you don't feel like you've got a lot of leverage with an insurance company, but when you're an individual alongside 30 million others looking for a plan, you bet they're going to compete harder for your business. That's what the exchange will enable us to do. Congressman Van Hollen supports the health care reform law.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons. Okay, Ken Timmerman.
Do you want Mark to go next?
No, we'll just make it easy.
Well, thank you very much. When I'm elected to Congress, the first vote that I intend to take will be to repeal Obamacare. This is big government gone wild, and everybody in this room, you understand that. It's 159 new government programs. It's 21 new taxes. They have to hire 800 new IRS agents just to write the new regulations. They're going to have to hire 16,000 IRS agents to be able to get into your pockets and into your bank accounts to be able to enforce this wretched law. This is not going to help women and children. It's not going to help our families. The Congressional Budget Office has pointed out quite correctly that 30 million people will still be uninsured after this law goes into effect because many of them will lose their insurance because of the new mandates placed upon small businesses. This will bankrupt our country, and unfortunately the Democrats do not seem to understand that. We will, in Congress next year, repeal Obamacare and replace it with market-driven reforms. We can do many of the things that Mr. Van Hollen's volunteer referred to in his comments earlier. We can make sure that kids can stay on their parents' insurance to the age of 26. We will certainly take care of people with pre-existing conditions. We know how to do those things. We'll make sure that people can buy insurance across state lines. We're going to have make sure we have tort reform. Right now, doctors are practicing defensive medicine because of all of the requirements of the trial lawyers have put onto their practice. We can do all of those things. We can pass them piece by piece. The last thing that we need is a party-driven, ideological, big government gone wild program like Obamacare. We need red, white, and blue reforms. We need reforms that 70% of the American people that can agree upon. And I look forward to being your representative to make sure that we do that in the next Congress. Thank you.
Thank you. The economy is having an increasing impact on women and children. Many families rely on two incomes to survive, and in some cases, one partner is out of work. A lot of times now it's the man is out of work, and the woman's carrying the load. This further strains them just to cover the basic necessities. Single moms are struggling to make ends meet every day. Many people are underemployed and are living paycheck to paycheck, with increasing gas prices dipping into their disposable income. Please share with us if you believe you can lower the federal deficit without raising taxes on the middle class and increasing the financial burden further on taxpayers.
Sure. So we will start with some facts. When President Obama took office, the economy was contracting at 8.9%. The economy was hemorrhaging over 800,000 jobs a month. This was the worst recession since the Great Depression. Those are the facts. Now, it is possible to reframe what Mr. Bongino said, because we actually now, as inconvenient as it may be, have seen 965,000 private sector jobs net created since this president took office, which I will tell you is greater in 4 years than President Bush accomplished in 8. The question is, and people for some sort of imagined political gain might want to talk down the economy, but when you hit 7.8% and heading, it's the right direction. When you have jobless claims dip to a 4.5-year low, it's the right direction. When we have 31 consecutive weeks of private sector job growth, it's the right direction. When we have 13 consecutive quarters of GDP growth, it's the right direction. Do we have to do more? Yes, we do. But let's not pretend we're not heading in the right direction. We are, and it's a result of the president's policies, good work of Senator Cardin and Congressman Van Hollen, and we need to move forward. Now, as regards whether or not we can close the federal budget deficit without hitting the middle class, the answer is, of course, yes, we can. We're currently at $16 trillion in debt, which means, let's think about what we're talking about here, folks. What we're talking about is for the top 2%, the highest income earners in the country, if you extend the tax rates on the first $250,000 of income, they still get a net tax cut of $12,000. The only thing at issue is whether or not for those 2% on the amount of income they make over $250,000, and only that income, whether or not we restore the rates to the Clinton era when we had 23 million new jobs. You do that, you can fund education like our Board of Education candidates wanted to, and you can reduce the deficit. That's the way to go.
Thank you. Mr. Timmerman.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the figure 23 million, because we have 23 million unemployed in this country thanks to the failed policies of this administration. That's right. Mr. Parsons, I don't know what country you're living in, but the one that you just described does not seem to be the one that I have been living in the past the past 4 years. Employment is not growing. People are still losing their jobs. The economy is not growing. It's going downhill. 7.8% unemployment is a disgrace. I have lived in a country like this before. I lived in France for a number of years. I was an investigative reporter going back and forth to the Middle East. They had a socialist system. And to be able to have socialism with this vast social safety net, you need to have chronic unemployment of about 8%. That's where we are now. You want to have chronic unemployment of 8% and anemic economic growth that never gets above 2%. We can grow this economy again by 5 to 6%, and that's how we get out of the fiscal hole that we're in today that you have dug for us. It's time for a change. They failed. It's time for a change, folks. As far as figures are concerned, again, the Bureau of Labor Statistics found that the only jobs created during this entire administration, during the 3 years and 8 months of this administration, were last month in September. 787,000 new jobs created, net jobs. Those are the only jobs created since January 2009. Your policies have failed. It's time for a change. Thank you. Look, I think you raise a very important point. Doctors are leaving Medicare in droves, and the Obamacare program is pushing them out. This program takes $716 billion from current seniors, not from the future, but from current seniors. And that, I think, is going to create a very difficult situation, not just from people today receiving Medicare, but from people going on to Medicare in the future. Dan mentioned that the Republican program does not change Medicare for anybody over 55. Let me just repeat that, because anything else is called meta-scare. They want to scare you that Republicans will change Medicare for people over 55. It's simply not true. It's simply not true. What the Democrats have done in Obamacare is take $750 billion away from current seniors, and it's driving doctors out of Medicare.
Okay, one more, and then we're going to have each of you complete. So you'll have 1 minute. And since I've only done 2 per, will you go ahead and take this opportunity to close with this comment?
Yeah, but let me, so we've had sort of
sure.
two answers from one side of this question. So, right.
I got that.
Let's start with the $750 billion. These were overpayments to private insurance plans in the Medicare system, called Medicare Advantage, right? Nothing wrong with Medicare Advantage, but as a taxpayer, you might ask yourself whether there's something wrong with paying a Medicare Advantage plan $1.14 for the exact same service that traditional Medicare was providing and therefore charging you $1. As a taxpayer, think about that. Now, you take those overpayments, and what do you do with them? You put them into preventative care. So we get the wellness screenings. You get mammograms. You get colonoscopies. You plug the donut hole. You get breaks on your prescription drugs. And because the healthcare system is a grand whole, if we're going to rein in healthcare costs, it has to be system-wide. Okay? Which is why the dollars put into the healthcare reform law are going to help bring down costs writ large. Okay? Just very important as a factual matter to understand what we're talking about here. Just the last point, typically when docs come in to see us about this, what they're most concerned about is something called the sustainable growth rate formula. Because that's actually what pays them. It's not the $750 billion. Those were overpayments to private plans. It's the sustainable growth rate formula they're typically worried about. I can tell you for myself, Senator Cardin can speak for himself, yes, they need a positive update. If you start cutting the sustainable growth rate formula by 26% next year, there's going to be a reaction, but that's something that can and should be avoided, okay?
1 minute to complete.
Okay. Listen, I want to, again, thank the Commission for the invitation and for including me. And actually, I mean, you've obviously heard a variety of perspectives, shall we say, on the table. I will tell you, as somebody who works for a very hardworking, committed public servant, I actually appreciate anybody who's willing to stand up and raise their hand for public office. I think it's an honorable thing, and notwithstanding our disagreements, I have great respect for everyone behind this table. Having said that, in the 8th Congressional District, we have, there are 4 candidates primarily in this race. If you are interested, whether you're a Republican, you're an independent, you're a Democrat, if you're interested in competent, honest, honorable, principled, pragmatic, hardworking service.
Vote for the other guy.
Congressman Van Hollen. No, Congressman Van Hollen, let me tell you something, is the kind of member who is a proud and principled enough Democrat to have been tapped to ask Vice President Biden to help coach him on the substantive matters of the debate, and at the same time will turn around and co-sponsor legislation with Congressman Paul Ryan on budget reform. If you're interested in that kind of results-oriented leadership that's principled but willing and able to reach across the aisle to find common ground, this is a big country, folks. You see it in this room. If you want common ground, I know Congressman Van Hollen would be proud to earn your support.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons. Mr. Timmerman, 1 minute.
I'm Ken Timmerman. I am the Republican candidate for Congress, and I haven't seen Chris Van Hollen up here very often. I don't think anybody else in this room has either. We haven't seen him in Carroll County much either. I've really been thrilled by the opportunity to run in this race. I will be thrilled to represent you next year in Congress. I will be thrilled to represent a district that includes Carroll County, Frederick County, and Montgomery County, and I will represent all of you. I will be there for you. This race is about jobs, this race is about economy, everybody knows it, but this election is also about our freedom. On one side, you have a government that wants to take away our freedoms. They want to encroach on our religious freedoms. They want to force the Catholic Church to provide coverage that goes against their moral values. On the other side, we believe in the free markets, we believe in economic freedom, we believe in religious freedom. I would love the opportunity to have your support. We need to get our military funded again. We cannot cut it the way my opponents would like to do so. We can make this country strong again and make sure that no more ambassadors get murdered overseas because people believe that we are weak and doubt ourselves.